What's up? What's up? Six Sensei here, and I'm sorry I haven't been incredibly active lately. Work is crazy. It's the holidays. I work in retail, as most of you know. Work for Coca-Cola, and we're driving volume. We're doing different things right now. It's consuming an absolute ton of my time, my mind capacities, things like that. So it's just something I can't really put a whole lot into this YouTube thing right now. Got to focus on work. Got to keep the bills coming in, and that's just that, guys. So thank you though. Thank you so freaking much for 7,000 subscribers. Still blows my mind every time I think about it, and it's just, you know, it never ceases to amaze me what this community is capable of, and you know, what you guys have given me as far as, you know, an audience to talk to, listen to share with. You know, it's awesome. And that being said, I have a topic, but as a token of my appreciation for 7K subscribers, I want to give away a set of FPS Freaks, a regular FPS Freak. It's called the Viper. I'm gonna give away a whole set. All you got to do is tell me in the comments what console you're going to be using it on. And, you know, liking and favorite doesn't hurt your chances. Let me just put it that way. You know, it's not going to give you the FPS Freaks, but it's never going to hurt your chances. And just again, thank you so much for 7K. If you do not win the FPS Freaks, don't bother. Don't worry. I can give you 10% off. Just check the description below, and you know, use my coupon code 2SIK. And you're gonna get 10% off, and it's gonna drop your price down. Basically, you know, it's as if, you know, it takes 10% off. So if you spend 15, you're gonna end up with like a $12 charge, and it saves you a decent amount on anything you buy from Control Freak. So it's not just FPS Freaks. They have several other items on there as well. So today's topic, you know, I thought about it. I'm like, what? I didn't see that guy standing there like a chump. Anyway, I thought about it. You know, I'm thinking about commentary topics and things like that. I said, you know what? What would I like to know about the gaming history of my, you know, my favorite YouTubers, you know, and where they came up in gaming? I'm like, you know, why don't I do that commentary? And that's pretty much what I was going into it with the notion of is I wanted to think about what did I want to know about my favorite commentators, and why wouldn't I be able to do a commentary on a similar subject? So I would like to know about like Woody's Gamertag and T-Mart and, you know, the Market J, where they came up in as far as the gaming scene goes. So let me get started here with I was at the age of 4 with my first gaming memory, and it was a good gaming memory, let's just say. It was one of those days, 4 years old, my dad gets his hands on an original Nintendo. Now, I'm 26 today, and I know that the Nintendo was out for at least a year and a half before we got our hands on it. But my first gaming memory was the first night we got it. My dad was 29, and we pulled an all-nighter, an absolute all-nighter, to beat the first Mario ever. And that's my first gaming memory. Me, my dad, and my mom pulling an all-nighter to beat Mario, and that's just awesome to think about. You know, my dad's not a gamer, never really was. You know, he played the Atari because it was cool. You know, he played the Nintendo because it had what it had, but he never was and still isn't a gamer, let's say. And neither is my mom, you know, but we sat there and we did that because it was the thing to do of the day. It was just cool. And that was pretty much my first gaming memory, as far as any memory of gaming goes, at 4 years old. And I think that's a pretty substantial one. I like that one. I'm happy with my first gaming memory. Followed by that, you know, some Duck Hunt, some things like that. But the next substantial memory I have as far as gaming goes is going to be, you know, and moving forward from Nintendo in a linear, you know, I want to move in a linear path here. Moving forward from Nintendo, my cousin had a Super NES. A buddy of mine who lived in the neighborhood had a Super NES. I never owned one. Never ever owned one. The next Nintendo we ever owned was the Wii, and obviously that's not the best console out there today, but it was cool. So the Super Nintendo, I played it very seldomly, but I'll tell you what game absolutely blew my freaking mind was the what was it, Super Mario Kart, or Mario Kart? Yeah, it must have been Super Mario Kart because it was a Super Nintendo, and that game just blew my mind, man. I remember the races and just everything you could do in there, and playing 4-player split screen maybe on there, or 2-player, whatever you could do. I don't remember everything, but I remember that game was awesome, and it really had a substantial mark on my mind, just being such a great game, and just so many endless hours of fun. Love that game. Moving forward, didn't own the N64, but I did own the I don't really know what timeline they all fell in, because I wasn't essentially what you would call a gamer at the time. But I did own the Sega Genesis, and I remember very distinctly my mom went out and she got me Sonic. She got me the first Sonic, and in less than 2 days I brought it back to her I brought it up to her and said, okay, I'm done. And she flipped out on me. I think she paid like $80 for it or something. It was something outrageous. And I've said that before on Startup X. You know, games aren't as expensive as they used to be. You know, Sonic back in the day, I remember her saying something along the lines of $80. Crazy, crazy amounts of money. And I thought he was going to walk back out right there. But, you know, she was mad because like less than 2 days and I had beaten the game. She was upset about that. Very, very deeply upset that it was over in 2 days. And I just spent so much money. You better get your ass back in there and play that again. But then I remember getting, I know there was a bunch of controversy over Mortal Kombat because it had blood in it. You know, it had a little blood in it, and it was like the first game to really feature blood in any type of gore, to be honest with you. And I remember, you know, as soon as my mom left the room, my buddy was over at the house, and we were sneaky about it, you know. Let's turn on the blood, you know, this is so cool. And really, looking back today, that blood looked like ass. It didn't look very good at all. And not to mention, the gore was just, I mean, in today's standards, it was terrible. It didn't look like anything. The movies of the day were worse, but you know, it was a controversial topic. Some decent aim right there. It was a controversial topic. It was on the news. I mean, it was a big deal, you know. And so I just remember that, you know, she's like, you better not turn on the blood, blah, blah, blah. And I want to say maybe at some point we lied to her because the Nintendo version didn't have the blood. The Sega version did. And I remember telling her that the version I owned, or the version I was going to own, or whatever it may be, didn't have the blood. So it's just a funny thing to look back, you know, and think about. You know, like, she was tripping out about little bitty spurts of blood and things like that. And I know there was some gore in it, and it was very controversial for its day. Other than that, guys, I didn't own an N64. My next console that I owned was the PlayStation 1. And that's kind of what started my PlayStation history. But I remember my cousin had the N64. And now my cousin, this is the same guy. He just had everything. He had every console. If it came out, he owned it. If the games came out and it was popular, he owned it. You know, he had everything. And we lived around the corner, so that was really fun. You know, I got to go over there and play. My parents, we were always essentially broke. Well, I wasn't broke. My parents just carried my ass along with their broke asses. And so I wasn't broke. They were. But they carried my ass along. So, you know, I went to my cousin's house all the time. We played the games. It was a hell of a lot of fun. And I remember that Mario 64 blew my mind. I wasn't into the news. I know people hated that game. Mario 64 blew my mind, and Mario Kart and GoldenEye, man, that shit was awesome. That holds a special place in my heart. Anyway, guys, I'm going to continue this on the next commentary, and it's going to be more along the lines of today's console, and essentially, I'm going to lay it all out there. You know, being a PlayStation guy for a long time, I'm going to lay it out there, and I'm going to tell you what it is. And, you know, it's pretty much going to start a little console war, which I don't necessarily want to do, but it is. Anyway, guys, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to lay it all out there, and I can't ask you to do anything different. That's it for me, 41-7. Thank you for joining me. I'm Six Sensei, and I'm out. Peace. Welcome to